I didn't like this.
All right, guys, let's take a look. Put it up here on the overhead.
But the second one,
All right, so one thing I love about doing this is you guys get to argue with each other about the definitions and what it should be. And I try to catch when I hear things that are very wrong. And there are a few things on here I put on here specifically because they're mistakes people make. And I wanted to let you make those mistakes now before they count against you. This is not going to count against you at all. It's what we call low stakes exercise. So what type of sampling? If you said random, and I know I use the word randomly, but remember, random selection is part of a lot of the methods. So in this case, random's not good enough because there's a little bit more of a method. And what method is that, of course? Yeah, because it could have been stratified or cluster, because the first thing they did was break the population up into three groups: heavy wine drinkers, light wine drinkers, people who don't drink. They broke the population up like that, and then they chose some from each of those groups. That's why it's stratified, because they chose some from each. And real quick, I want to point out to you guys, obviously I'm not going to grade this or anything, but when I say why, be sure you do that. Because that's normally the most heavily graded part of the problem. Even if you get the answer right and you don't tell me why, you could lose at least half the points. And that's the big part of it. Okay. Now here, the reason I say all this and I put it in bold and underline is I'm never going to ask you for a definition. This problem, I always get people say, sample is a subgroup, you choose something. No, I don't want a definition. In this situation, so what is the sample is easy to identify here. Hopefully, what's the sample in this situation? So a lot of you guys answer differently. It's the one way to answer the sample question is to say it's the 41 heavy drinkers, the 52 light drinkers, and the 48 teetotalers. Well, that's an old word. Right? Another way to answer this question is somebody added them up, and what'd you get? 141. So you could add, this is one way to answer it. Another way to say 141 Ecuadorians. Not necessarily. You could say, how do you say it?
People in Ecuador and
Now, if the sample, if on the sample you said heavy drinkers, light wine drinkers, and people don't drink, that's everybody. You do have to be a little more specific and say a subgroup at least, or put the actual number. So if I'm you, I'm going to put the numbers to be safe. Yes? That'll work. Because normally your sample, you don't have to be as specific because it's understood that it's picked from the population. So as long as your population, what do you get for your population? People in Ecuador. If you just say people, then I'm like, well, that's all over the world, and I try to make it really clear that these guys are only interested in Ecuador. So it could be people from all over the world because they only chose people from Ecuador. So the population, people.
Can you add up the group? 100 people who drink and 48 people who don't drink?
Well, that can't be the population because that is the sample.
No,
Oh, the sample, sure. I'm with
add
you.
up the group.
Yes. Some people added them all up. You could add up into people you like to party with, no, people that drink, people that don't drink. Is that yes?
Can you say all people drinking in Ecuador?
That wouldn't make any sense, because how in the world could my sample include non-drinkers if my population was only people that drink? Does that make sense? Your sample has to be. No, that's what I mean. How could the population be people that drink in Ecuador if your sample includes people that don't drink? Does that make sense? Your sample is chosen from where? From the population. So how in the world could a sample have people that aren't in the population? That doesn't make sense. You guys start to see how this is. Okay, I like it. And also, a lot of times I get people telling me the sample is the link between stomach cancer and drinking. I'm like, all right, I like that reaction. Your answer to population and sample has to always be groups of things, not an idea, right? That doesn't make any sense. Population and sample are both groups of things. Okay. Try to go over all the mistakes that I normally get from people. Okay, I like it. Let's see, part C. Now this one I'm hoping is very in your face. The researchers find that the percentage of stomach cancer occurrences in their sample is 3%. Is that a stat or a parameter? Yeah, because what word tells you that? Sample. Yeah. Sample, statistic describes the sample. So why? Because it came from a sample. So it's definitely a statistic. Came from sample. Now, this is a good place. If you said statistic because it's a percentage, or statistic because it's what they calculated, you're going to lose half the points. Because again, that's you got the right answer, but your explanation was lacking. You understand? The thing I got to hear from you, if you say the answer is statistic, is that it came from a sample, or it describes a sample. I like it. Okay. Now, like 2A is my example of a situation where I actually would take two different answers based on how you argued it. Some of you guys, I don't know, some of you guys maybe have been lucky enough. Has anybody never been to the DMV in California? There you go. See, some of you guys maybe you're lucky enough to never have been there. So even if you've been there, you just kind of went by what I said here. I would accept either interval, if you've never been, or if you just see number and you say, well, if I have number 3 and you have number 8, you are 5 people back from me. Right? The difference makes physical sense. But what I really was thinking was, in fact, when I made this problem way a long time ago, I wasn't even thinking about interval, but then I realized, oh yeah, I would take that if they explain it correctly. How would you say it's ordinal?
It's another name.
Yeah, because there's an order to how you're called, and also in California, I don't know about other states, but here we get, it feels like bingo, right? So there's like bingo, I don't know. You got a G and an H and a B and whatever shit. You got B22 and H17. I don't live on that B21 and I'm B22, and then, oh, sweet, H, G, H, H, G. Can the B's have a chance? If you've ever been, you know what it's about. Is that so here I would either take interval, but then you have to explain to me, if you say interval and explain to me that subtraction makes sense. Yes, sir?
Wouldn't it be nominal also?
All right. Good point. Hell yes, but phenomenal, you're wrong, because you always got to tell me the highest level. Every single level is nominal. Every level is nominal. Age is ratio. Why? Because if somebody's 40 and somebody else is 20, 40 divided by 20 is 2. But if I said, there's that 40-year-old guy, isn't that his name? Isn't that a way for me to reference that person? Every single level is nominal. Nominal is the most basic level. Ordinal adds order. Interval adds subtraction making sense. Ratio adds division making sense. So the answer to this kind of question is the highest level that it is. Is that? You could say nominal for everything and be right in a sense, but no, it's not right because you've got to tell me the highest level it is.
What do you mean by ratio?
So, all right. You all agree that if I go to the DMV and they give me a number, that is now my name.
Yes.
I like it. When they call that number, that is my name. That's how I know to go. Would you all agree that it's not just a name, though? Right? Why did it give me this number? Because it tells me where I am in the sequence of going up. It's the order that I'll be called in. So it's at least ordinal. It is a name, but it's not just nominal. there's more to it. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you ask me, isn't that nominal? I have to go, yeah, because they all are, but there's more to it. Yes?
What's an example of something purely nominal?
Hair color. Right? If I said now I can't even think about hair colors. All the green-haired people and the blonde-haired people, and you're like, wait, blonde before green. You didn't put it in order. There's no order to it. Purely a name. Jersey number. You could argue that you can line them up in numerical order, but do they have to be? If you come marching on the field and you're like, here I'm number 80 and here comes number 11, you're like, get back in the locker. Really? What the hell's your problem? No. Right? I don't understand this game. No. Who gives a shit? There's no order. It's just a name. I like it. There's the only kinds of things that are only nominal because they don't have any of the other qualities. I like it. So interval, you have to tell me subtraction makes sense. And you have to give me an example. Fifth minus third equals 2. 2 people ahead. Or you could say ordinal, given out in order. That's fine. So in that problem, I would take 2 different answers based on how you answered the question why. So that kind of problem, especially you have to tell me why. If you just said one of those 2 and didn't tell me why, shit, I got to take off more points. I've had people answer the question say ordinal because subtraction makes sense. Oh, shit. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't give me a why, I've got to assume the worst. Okay, I like it. Given out in order. Yeah. Sorry. I think my hand is still on break. Now this one, I did this on purpose. 30%, 12%, that is not the data. That's not the measurement, right? That's not the data. That's what I did with the data. What's the data? What am I actually writing down as I'm collecting the data to do this? I'm asking people or looking at their hair color. So the list of hair colors, you don't look at 30%. That's what I did once I had the list. Then I could do the 30%. So you could say, that's a trick question, but I'm telling you right now, I'm showing you right now before I grade you, that's the right way to look at this. You look at the data, not what they did with the data. That's going to show up later with the TVs. See you in a minute. So this would be what level? Nominal. The data is hair color. Because the percentage is not the data. You guys see that? The percentage is not the data. It's what I did with the data. Once you get your data on what is, and again, what's your data? The data is the answer to the question. So what would the question be? What's your hair color? So the answers be hair colors.
So for something like ratio, if you're looking at impurity samples, that is ratio data, you're saying this one's like 30% pure, 20% pure.
Oh yeah. If the actual list you're making is percentages, that would be ratio. Because then you can say the 60% metal alloy is twice whatever metal than the 30% one is.
What's another example of a ratio data?
Oh, like age, any measurement, any like real measurement, like height, weight. And how would you show its ratio? You'd say like for weight, you'd say if there was somebody who's 200 pounds and there's somebody that's 100 pounds, the division makes sense. It means that guy is twice as heavy as the other one.
Okay, so even if the data isn't specifically a ratio, like a mathematical ratio?
Oh, no, I like it. So, what's the idea behind interval? Subtraction makes sense. So how would data be subtraction? It isn't, it's what can you do with 2 data points. So nominal, you can't do shit with 2 data points. They don't even have to be in some order related to each other. Ordinal, they have to be in order to make sense. Interval, 2 data points are subtracted and it makes sense. You with me? Because I can subtract zip codes. I can, but does the answer make sense? No, that's why zip codes are not intervals. Zip codes are actually nominal. They're just names of areas. Yes, with me? So ratio would be, if I have 2 data points, does the division make sense? Yes? Alright, so again, I can subtract 2 weights, and the answer makes sense. But is that the most I can do with it? Can I divide them in the man? Yes. So you always go to the highest level that you can. Yeah, I'm thinking about trying to make some kind of karate weird belt thing. Who could you beat? Nominal can't beat shit. Ordinal can beat. No, I don't know. I'm thinking about something, but your answer has to be the highest, the most it could do. So every ratio data is also interval. You can subtract it. It is also an ordinal. There's an order to it. So years, year of birth, interval, right? Aren't they also ordinal? Isn't there an order to years? I would hope so. Yeah, 2017 is gone. Now it's 2132. We just chose that. No, there's an order to it. Shit, right? Yeah, some of us want to skip certain years, but oh. All right. Let me see. So number 3. You cannot look at the number I give you. The fish weighed 2 kilograms. I'll put all the money I have on it wasn't exactly 2 kilograms. And I can get a hold of a scale that can take it out to like 50 decimal places. And it ain't going to be 2.0000000. You with me? Oh. That is essentially impossible to do, to be honest, right? So you don't look at 2 and go, well, that's a whole number, it's discrete. No, you say fish weight. Same thing with the other thing we just did. Not the 30%, you say hair color. What was the basic thing I was looking at? Fish weight. Can that take on any value between 2 numbers? 0 and the highest fish weight, for example. I mean, yeah, it could take on any value between the 2. If fish doesn't go from 2 kilograms to 3, just swim around one day and go, boom, whoa, shit. Right? So A is totally continuous. Doesn't skip value. If anybody wants to argue that on some level, you can, but I'm not going to get that. You don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. It's not a requirement. So part B, this is where people get a little confused. If I said the average number of kids is 2.5, I am not saying there's half a kid running around somewhere, right? If there are 10 people I survey and there's 25 total kids that they said they have, that's an average of 2.5. You don't say 3, because then that would be 30 total kids, and that's not true. You see what I'm saying? So an average could be any damn number. But what is it that I'm talking about here? Number of TVs. Can that be, by itself, 2.0? If I come to somebody's door and say, how many TVs do you have in your house? 3.8. And I'm like, do I want to ask you to show me, or do I just want to leave? I don't know. Right? The TV only works 80% of the time. No, it's the TV or it ain't. So that is totally discrete.
Yeah.
No TVs. 1 TV. Right? 2 TVs. Skips possible values, can only be 0, 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's several different ways you can kind of explain why it's discrete.
Can be counted.
Is countable, I like it. I like it.
Is or isn't?
Is. We won't get into the whole idea of countably infinite. Countable in this sense is fine. Number of is a big key phrase. Number of, I can count that shit. Right? I like it. Okay, everybody good so far? Okay. Blah, blah. For every 20th engine, that should be, yeah, systematic. Systematic because there's a system to it. I love it. That's all you gotta really say. It's every nth thing. So that's systematic. And then distance here. Every end thing.
You also say incremental.
Sure, I would understand that. That's fine. Soybean field is divided into subplots. Plants are selected from each subplot to estimate the harvest. Yeah, so that's just like the very first one, right? If I wanted to make that into cluster, what would I have done?
Selected only. Selected only.
That's right.
Selected only.
Take all the plants from randomly selected subplots and none from the other ones. That would have been cluster. I like it. This one is totally stratified. Stratified, sum. All you gotta say for this is sum from each. Or sum from all, sure. Sum from each. Cool, I like it. Yeah. Yes, we're gonna have a break in a second. Any questions from that? So here's what I'm thinking I want to do. The first break is like an official break. You guys can go, whatever. The next break we take will be our little, actually maybe we'll do the field trip at the very end of class. Is that, like right when class ends, maybe we'll do that. All right, so we'll have 2 nice breaks and then we'll leave a little early, take a little field trip too. And I'm going to also show you where my office will be, because I'm hoping it'll be completed before the intersession's over. All right, so now you got a break. Come back at, what is this? 10:30?
You want us back in our groups or?
Yeah, like wherever you're sitting right now, just kind of come back to that seat.
Are we keeping them working?
Yeah.